Here are the top 3 reasons why a poorly structured balance sheet will wreak financial chaos inside of your operation. Number 1, poor loan structure, right? Your loans actually aren't structured correctly in your balance sheet, and you have things where they are not supposed to be. And what I mean by that is, over the years of running Legacy Farmer and looking at literally hundreds of balance sheets over that time frame, it has been a common occurrence that loans are not structured correctly. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people have intermediate or long-term loans that were supposed to be structured that way sitting on their operating line of credit, because in the moment it was easier just to go buy that piece of equipment on the operating line of credit, or it was easier to just go buy that, put that down payment on that piece of ground, or it was easier just to roll over losses versus terming them out and actually getting your loan structured correctly. If you do not have this structured correctly, then your working capital right now probably looks absolutely terrible. The first question you need to ask yourself is, do I have any intermediate or long-term debts sitting on my operating line that my bank should have moved off there in the first place? And this leads us to point number 2, is you could be paying a lot more interest on your loans as of today than what you probably should be. So again, we go back to the scenario number 1 there, or point number 1, whereas if you have a lot of debt sitting on your operating line of credit, the common thing for our customers is they bought a bunch of equipment back in 21 and 2020 and things like that, and that was sitting on their operating line of credit. Well, the thing is though, is the bank should have moved that off, obviously, but they didn't. And now they've gotten to reprice that debt every single year. And I don't have to tell you what interest rates were and what they have done from 2020 up to 2024 and where we're at. Now, from the bank's perspective, this is awesome because they get to reprice that $300,000 equipment loan every single year. And now they're making 9% on it, versus if they would have set it up correctly back in 2020, you would have a 5 to 7 year term note sitting on your operating line of credit with a fixed interest rate of that 3 to 4% that everybody was getting back then. And this now leads us to point number 3 inside of your balance sheet and why structure is important. Without proper structure, you have no idea what the strengths and weaknesses are inside of your balance sheet, because if things are not in the appropriate places and you are not separating out current assets, current liabilities, intermediate assets, intermediate liabilities, long-term assets, long-term liabilities, and you don't have these things broken out into 3 sections on your balance sheet, and everything is not clean and clear there, then you are going to have a very difficult time negotiating with the bank, for example, when it comes to getting your next loan approval. Really being able to look at and analyze the overall strengths and weaknesses of your balance sheet so that you can use that information to get favorable rates and terms when you go into the bank. Guys, it just impacts everything there. It's also going to impact the types of big decisions you make inside of the operation, and you have to know where your equity is sitting at in your balance sheet. Is it sitting underneath current assets and current liabilities? Probably not with today's market and where we're at. Working capital is probably going to be pretty tight on a lot of people. Is it under intermediate assets and intermediate liabilities, or long-term assets and long-term liabilities? It's so crucial that you understand and know exactly where your equity is at inside of your operation, because knowing that is going to change how you approach and how you speak to your bank and the types of terms and rates and stuff you get on loans going forward. So guys, I hope that helps you. Take the information you learned here and go put it into action.